Good morning. The day after Thanksgiving, and I'm still thankful. Imagine that. Um, Doing the program, I'm a little bit under the weather. Yesterday was a struggle but it was fun. We were with friends, Velda and I, and Rob and Luda Stone, and 3 out of 4 of their children. The eldest is off in Montana training for a missionary trip to Cambodia, of all places. Well, I think she's like 20 years old. She can do what she wants to do, and I'm glad she's doing it for the Lord. God bless you, Grace. It was disturbing to me in a way because the youngest, who I think can't be more than 10 or 11, maybe 12, she's taller than I am now. Of course, I'm short. All the kids in Velda's family, they would always say they want to they'd measure themselves because if they were taller than Uncle Jimmy, they thought they might make it someday. I was the first measuring line for them. You got to be taller than Uncle Jimmy. Well, she's definitely taller than Uncle Jimmy. Rob has been on a missionary trip to Ukraine. He was a pilot and a flyer in the Air Force, graduated the Air Force Academy, and he's retired now. But he still has skills and he still has his rating, and he's done a lot of things in Europe, Eastern Europe, and South and Central Asia. Uh, I enjoyed talking to him about the situation there in Ukraine for born again Christians and the work that they were doing over there with the group that he was with. He's an ordained minister, went to seminary. As far as I know, he's never pastored a church. I think he planted a couple of churches in Kazakhstan where he found his sweet wife. I told Rob all the time, I said, everybody loves Luda, but they just tolerate you. See, I understand that because everybody loves my wife, Velda, and they just tolerate me. So I might be a little draggy this morning, and we may not go as long as usual because I'm very weary today. But it really doesn't matter because wherever I stop, I'll just pick up with it tomorrow. There's no law that says I have to go a half hour or more, except that the more I get done every day, the better chance I stand of finishing the book of the prophet Jeremiah before the Lord returns. I believe he's coming for us any day. So in any event, I may not get to the end of it, but he said, occupy till I come. And that good old song, I'll work till Jesus comes. I'll work till Jesus comes. Yeah. When he calls me, I will answer. When he calls me, I will hear. When he calls me, I will answer. I'll be somewhere working for my Lord. Now, the Baptists who think are scared to death of any kind of work because they think you're trying to earn your salvation, they sing it, I'll be somewhere listening for my name. Well, they already called my name. In July, forget the date, I cannot confirm the date, but July 1967, there's a card for me in that church from Vacation Bible School, a profession of faith, in July of 1967. But for some reason, they did not write down the date. Looking back, I know that the Vacation Bible School was the week it started the Monday morning after the 4th of July that year. So I know kind of when it was. My friend that lived next door, Pamela Carter, and her birthday was a day after mine. Her mother played the piano at the church. She might remember when it was, but there's no record of it. But he's coming soon. He's coming soon. And as Billy Graham said, that heaven is my home. I'm just traveling. I'm just passing through here. I'm a sojourner in a foreign land. Yesterday, did I do this yesterday? Yes, I did. Yesterday, we will pick up from where we were in chapter 11, beginning in verse 12. God is telling Jeremiah, and Jeremiah is telling the people, and Jeremiah is asking some questions along the way and doing some lamentation. That's why he's called the weeping prophet. If he jumped around, he might have been the leaping prophet. Leaping lizards, Daddy Warbucks. I'm dating myself now. Of course, if I did date myself, at least I'd be dating somebody I like. But then I guess that's another line of inquiry. Chapter 11, verse 12. Then shall the cities of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem go and cry unto the gods unto whom they offer incense. In other words, they're calling out to me, but I won't help them because they don't really believe in me. And they don't love me. And the things they sacrifice to idols. Because the God, even if they pretend to be worshiping God, it's not the God who lives forever. It's a God of their own choosing, a God of their own understanding, a God they have created in their own image, just like we do today. The world worships a God mainly. Most Christians, the church biz, churchianity, modern Christendom, they worship a God that they have created in their mind, not the God who actually exists. The God who actually exists lives forever, and he will not tolerate sin. And he will not tell you that it's okay. And he's returning to judge the quick and the dead. You need to be aware of that. Then shall the cities of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem go and cry unto the gods unto whom they offer sacrifice, but they shall not save them at all in the time of their trouble. Who is a very present help in time of trouble? The Lord. The Lord God is his name, the Lord of hosts, the God of Sabaoth, the God of war. And Jehovah Rapha, the God of healing. Jehovah, what is it? Nisei? I can't pronounce the word, but he's like the it calls him the multi-breasted one, the God who nurtures, the God who feeds. And like he's a mama that never runs out of tits. There's plenty for all the pigs. All the piggies. He will keep nurturing us. All of those names. He is the one who is an ever-present help in time of trouble, not these heathen gods who are no gods at all. They worship the things that they made with their own hands and called them gods. And then devils, fallen angels, demons accept that worship because Satan only desires to be worshipped because he thinks that he's the same as God. Verse 13, for according to the number of thy cities were thy gods, O Judah, and according to the number of the streets in Jerusalem have you set up altars to that shameful thing, even altars to burn incense unto Baal. We'll talk a little bit more about Baal here in a minute. He's intimately entwined with Molech, or Moloch, depending on how they call it both the same thing. Verse 14, therefore pray not thou for this people. God is telling Jeremiah to quit praying for Jerusalem and for Judah. Quit praying for his people. Quite a big thing. Back in the day, Samuel told the people of Israel when they were being occupied and under the control of the Philistines. godless, uncircumcised, heathen Philistines. He said, God forbid that I should neglect to pray for you. As wicked as they were, as awful as they were, as rebellious against God as they were, Samuel could not help but pray for the people because God loved this people and because God loved their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom he renamed Israel. And he loved them. He loved them. And Samuel had to pray for them, no matter how wicked they were. And now God is telling Jeremiah. He's telling Jeremiah over 500 years later, don't pray for this people. Samuel the prophet, Samuel the seer, as they call him, he ordained the first king of Israel, Saul. And then when God took away the kingdom from Saul, Samuel ordained King David, who had to run and hide like a rabbit from Saul. He was ordained king when he was 17. He didn't become king of Judah until he was 30. He didn't become king of all Judah until he was 37. Of all Israel, of all the tribes, until he was 37. But Samuel ordained the first king, and here's Jeremiah. Before we get to the end of Jeremiah, he will preach over the last king to sit on the throne of David, of that line, before Jerusalem is stoned. And Judah will never be a power again, except for a little bit of time between the Greeks and the Roman occupations, when Judas Maccabees and his family rise up against the Seleucids, which were an offshoot of Alexander's four-pronged empire, one of the generals, Seleucids. And they have freedom for nearly 100 years. It's what Hanukkah's all about. Throwing the heathen out of the temple and cleansing the temple and returning to their daily sacrifice and rededicating the temple, dedicating the temple to God. God bless you. I can see somebody's looking at me, but I don't know who, because the picture's real little. But I'm glad you're watching. It makes me feel like somebody's listening. Of course, it's a holiday time. Maybe not many people watch, but a bunch watched yesterday. Good morning, Kevin. God love you. You are certainly being faithful to the Lord. I'm sorry, as I said earlier, that I'm a little weary today, so I'm not exactly on my best game. But as the mad colonel that Alec Guinness played in The Bridge on the River Kwai, he says, just because a man is not at his best and on his best form doesn't mean that he can't help out with a little fetch and carry, a spot of paint here and there. And he cleaned out the hospital and got them to march off behind him to help work on that stupid bridge that they were building for the Japanese. Fascinating movie. You need to read it sometime. Therefore, pray not thou for this people. Did I say that you needed to read the movie? I probably did. The book was very good. I think it was by Pierre Bruel. But then it might have been by Neville Shute. You know, your teacher is losing reference today. Therefore, pray not thou for this people, neither lift up nor cry a prayer for them, for I will not hear them in the time that they cry unto me for their trouble. The God who is an ever-present help in time of trouble. who shall keep them in peace, whose mind is stayed on him. Tells Jeremiah that he won't listen. No matter what they cry out, he wasn't listening. Not anymore. He had heard it all, so to speak. And beginning in verse 15, God is speaking through Jeremiah to Judah. What hath my beloved to do in mine house, seeing she hath wrought lewdness with many, and the holy flesh is passed from thee? When thou doest evil, then thou rejoicest. His beloved. Ezekiel chapter 16 explains that he came upon Israel at the hour of her birth, and that she was a child that was unwanted. She was cast out on the dung heap, polluted in her own blood as a baby. And God looked down at her and breathed on her and said, live. And she lived. She became beautiful. Ezekiel 16. And he came to love her, and he took her as his wife. And then she betrayed him. With other gods or other lovers. She went a-whoring after other gods. And I asked them, what are you doing home? If they cry out to him, what are you doing home? Do I have an obligation to listen to you, your husband whom you've betrayed? I was a husband to you, but you betrayed me. What hath my beloved to do in mine house? What are you doing here? Why don't you go live in your boyfriend's house, where you've been sacrificing and worshiping? Seeing that she hath wrought lewdness with many. She has many lovers. Lewdness, she has fornicated, committed adultery with many lovers, other gods. Remember, idolatry is spiritual adultery. The Jews were married to God through covenant. Christians are the bride of Christ. We will be his bride in heaven by his blood, bought with his blood. And says, the holy flesh is passed from thee. When thou doest evil, then thou rejoicest. The holy flesh is the things that were sanctified by placing them on the altar, the offerings that they make to God. Well, they make those same offerings to Baal and to Molech and their god Remphan, the gods of the Canaanites and the Sidonians, and of Tyre and of the Philistines, and of the Moabites. Baal, their god, their fertility god, their version of the sun god, who was also the fertility god and the god of human sacrifice, because he had a buddy that went everywhere he went. His name was Molech. And their worship consisted of, instead of roasting a lamb without spot and blemish on the altar after putting his blood on the horns of the altar, they put their children, their babies, on the altar and roasted them to their god Molech in their Baal worship. And then they would fornicate and have a big party, like an orgy, like in the wilderness when Moses was up on the mountain. The people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Some people think the Bible's hard to understand. It's easy to understand. It's plain Jane right here. You're my wife. You left me. You've been sleeping with everybody in town. What are you doing here? You burn your own children on an altar to another god, and then you put sanctified flesh, sanctified by the temple that is called by my name, up on the altar, and think that I'm going to accept your offering after you've burnt your own kids to death? Huh. Think again, baby. It ain't happening. You're my wife, and you're running around with ever Tom, Dick, and Harry. I'm not drunk. I don't drink anymore. I haven't had a drink in almost 27 years. But my head is not doing too good this morning. I won't quit talking about it. I'm just going to press on. I want to read you this relationship between God and Israel that carries on now with God and Judah, because the northern kingdom of Israel, after the split, had been taken over into captivity by the Syrians. This is God's relationship with Israel and why it's so important. It says, especially about Jerusalem. Chapter 16 of Ezekiel says, again the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations, and say, thus saith the Lord God unto Jerusalem, thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, thy mother a Hittite. The land. He's talking about the land. All of chapter 11, God is talking about the land covenant, not the covenant made on Mount Sinai, the land covenant that he made with Abraham. Well, Jerusalem was in that land, the land of Canaan, where Abram came with Sarai, his wife, and his nephew Lot. Thy father in the land of Canaan was an Amorite, thy mother was a Hittite. And as for thy nativity, in the day that thou wast born, thy navel was not cut. They didn't cut the cord. Neither wast thou washed in water to supple thee. Thou wast not salted at all, nor swaddled at all. None eye pitied thee to do any of these things unto thee, to have compassion upon thee. But thou wast cast out into an open field, to the loathing of thy person in the day that thou wast born, and I passed by thee, and saw thee polluted in thine own blood. I said unto thee when thou wast in thy blood, live. Yea, I said unto thee when thou wast in thy blood, live. I have caused thee to multiply as the bud of the field, O inhabitants of Jerusalem. And thou hast increased and waxen great, and thou art come to excellent ornaments. Thy breasts are fashioned, thine hair is grown, whereas thou wast naked and bare. Now when I passed by thee and looked upon thee, behold, thy time was the time of love. And I spread my skirt over thee, and covered thy nakedness. Yea, I swear unto thee, and entered into a covenant with thee, saith the Lord God, and thou becamest mine. Then washed I thee with water, yea, I throughly washed away thy blood from thee, and I anointed thee with oil. I clothed thee also with broidered work, and shod thee with badger skins. And I girded thee about with fine linen, I covered thee with silk. I decked thee also with ornaments, and I put bracelets upon thy hands, and a chain on thy neck. And I put a jewel in thy forehead, and earrings in thine ears, and a beautiful crown upon thine head. Thus wast thou decked with gold and silver. Thy raiment was of fine linen and silk embroidered work. Thou didst eat fine flour and honey and oil. Thou wast exceeding beautiful, and thou didst prosper into a kingdom. And thy renown went forth among the heathen for thy beauty. For it was perfect through my comeliness, which I had put upon thee, saith the Lord. Your perfection came from me, lady. I took you up from the death pile, from the slag heap. But thou didst trust in thy own beauty, just as Satan did, and playedst the harlot because of thy renown, and pouredst out thy fornications on every one that passed by. And you gave everything I gave you to him. You gave him your love. You gave him your loyalty. You gave him your riches. You gave him your home. You gave him your bed. So what are you doing back here in my house? What do you want from me? Thus saith the Lord God. Verse 16, the Lord called thy name a green olive tree. I don't know who that was, but I forgot to mute the thing here. So we'll have to, sorry about that. I didn't think anybody would be calling on a holiday, but maybe most people don't think this is a holiday. I'll catch up with it later. I just forgot to mute the phone. The Lord called thy name a green olive tree and of goodly fruit. With the noise of a great tumult, he hath kindled a fire upon it, and the branches of it are broken. I have begun to burn you down, saith the Lord. Verse 17, for the Lord of hosts that planted thee hath pronounced evil against thee, for the evil of the house of Israel, which has already gone into captivity, it's already been judged, and for the evil of the house of Judah, which they have done against themselves to provoke me to anger, and offering incense unto Baal. And now Jeremiah is talking to God. And the Lord hath given me knowledge of it, and I know it. And then thou showedst me their doings. Jeremiah is saying, God told me all this, and then he began to show me what they did. God's talking to Jeremiah, and Jeremiah's scared. But I was like a lamb or an ox that is brought to the slaughter, and I knew not that they had devised devices against me. They were always trying to kill Jeremiah, put him in jail, shut him up, throw him in a pit, throw him in a well, put him in dungeon, put him under house arrest, carry him away prisoner. They were always doing stuff to Jeremiah. I knew not that they had devised devices against me, saying, let us destroy the tree with the fruit thereof. Let us cut him off from the land of the living, that his name be no more revealed and remembered. And Jeremiah prays to God, but, O Lord of hosts, that judges righteously, that triest the reins and hearts. Let me see thy vengeance on them, for unto thee I have revealed my cause. Jeremiah is saying, Lord, because of all the things you told me to tell them, they want to kill me. They're chasing me from town to town. They're gonna slay me. They're gonna put me in prison. They're gonna torture me. Protect me. Help me. The entire city of Jerusalem, the entire country of Judah, the remnant of the house of David, was given to idolatry, the worship of Baal, the child sacrifice to Molech, the spiritual fornication and adultery with other gods, idolatry. And God has pronounced evil against them. And Jeremiah has pronounced this evil in God's name against him, and now they want to kill him for it. Jeremiah's begging God to protect him. Well, as you'll see, he does. My feeling is this, that whatever he requires of me, I will do. And I understand that he'll either protect me here or he'll protect me there. Whether I'm here in the flesh, he's in me. Whether I am there in the spirit, he is with me. As Paul says, whether I live, whether I die, not important. Pardon me. I'm with the Lord either way. How about you? Are you with the Lord either way?